mistake and put I put a confusing date in the email when I sent that out to you guys. I said we're gonna do it today, Sunday, February 16th. So I said us today. I had that part right, but I said Sunday, February 16th, which is just completely stupid of me. And because February 16th is not February 16th, and that's not today, that's not even yesterday or whatever. And so what I want to do is for those of you who came in and we went through silver, the prospects on silver, how to invest in it, different ways to invest safely, how to minimize the risk, how to turn it into an income driver, how to make it literally like into a little business, like literally put you in the silver business where you're making income off of the silver that you own. And so I'm going to do it again. I'm going to basically just do the live session again. Chanel is here. Chanel is here actually. And Chanel, I want to just publicly say to you, remind me, I just let's find a date on the calendar and I'm going to do that again. I'm thinking maybe next Tuesday or something like that. And for those of you that might have been confused about the date or something, yeah, Anita's like February 16th is a Monday, right? So literally, I my brain was scrambled eggs, and I apologize from the bottom of my soul. But the good thing is, I want to make it up to you more than double. So for those of you who came to the first deep dive, you can come to the second one, and this is your chance if you want to ask more questions. Taking the information again, we can do that. We can go through. We did the digital field trip where I showed you specifically exactly what to buy, how to buy it, how to set up your collar, how to set up your income stream, all these things, like all these things, and it's really compelling. So for those of you that are looking to make extra money or something like that, I think that silver can do that for you. But what you don't want to do, in my opinion, is you don't want to invest in it the way everybody else is investing in it. Because what a lot of people do is they just do stocks and they don't do options. And so what happens is that you are exposing yourself to unnecessary risk. You're exposing yourself to what we in finance refer to as inefficient risk. That basically just means risk that you're not being rewarded for, not being compensated for. A good way to sort of think it through is it's almost like if I say go climb Mount Everest, you might die, but if you climb it, I'll give you $10 million, right? A lot of you would probably take me on that bet. You'd go get training on how to climb the mountain, and if you believe me and trust it, or if I put down a deposit or put the money in escrow, you probably go through the processing to climb Mount Everest because you want the money. But if I said go climb Mount Everest and I'm gonna give you $50, then you'd say no, no, thank you. I'm not doing all that for $50, right? So that's the difference between efficient risk and inefficient risk. Efficient risk is where you're being properly compensated for your risk. Inefficient risk is where you're just taking chances over nothing, right? Like these poor kids where we don't give them financial literacy when they're young, and they end up literally like going to prison because they need to get extra $200 to pay the rent. I mean, shoot, I'm not saying anybody should want to go to prison, but if you're gonna go to prison, at least do it for a couple million or something. Like go rob a bank. No, I'm not telling nobody to rob banks. Let me just stop talking because I'm about to talk myself into a hole. But anyway, so for those of you that either want to join the replay of the deep dive, that we're gonna just go through it again, or you just want to watch the recording of what we did. Here's the link. I'm gonna put this link in the chat. So feel free to grab this link, and it's got a discount attached, so you can still use that discount. And it's right there in the comments, and it might be a strategy that's hopefully helpful to you and your family as you're looking for ways to start your black-owned business. Remember, a black-owned business. This is another little thing. A lot of people think a black-owned business can't be like a stock market investment. I don't agree. I think a black-owned business is a business that's owned by black people. Like I don't know. Do y'all agree? What do y'all think about that? Would you say that a black-owned business is a business that's owned by black people? That black owned black. Do you agree? Do you agree with me? Right? So in my view, if you own shares of Microsoft, well, that's a black owned business because you own that little piece of Microsoft. You don't own the whole company, but you own your little corner of Microsoft, right? Like if you own your company has or your family has a 300 shares of Coca-Cola, that's a black owned business because you're black and you own it, and that's your little corner of Coca-Cola. Ownership does not mean you have to be the big boss, it be all end all boss of everything. Ownership does not mean that you can't have partnerships, right? Ownership does not mean that you have to be calling all the shots 100% of the time. Ownership can mean that you are part of a community of owners. Right, the ownership can mean that I got my piece, you got your piece, and so if I'm Jewish and he's Arab and he's Chinese and you're black, then there's the Chinese owned business, there's the Arab owned business, there's the Jewish owned business, there's the black owned business, right? Like a city. You have like your Cuban neighborhood and your Japanese neighborhood, right? Your Chinatown over here, right? So just think when you think about ownership, I encourage you to broadly think about it. The quickest way to have a black-owned business is to go buy some shares of stock. That's my point. And the beauty of it too. I sat down and while I was in Bowie, Bowie, I'm just so fascinated by Bowie and Prince George's County. I just love y'all. I love these little bougie black people driving around their little Mercedes and making $500,000 a year. You do know you don't exist, right? You do know that according to the narrative of being black in America, y'all don't exist. You're aliens. You're purple unicorns. You're like three-legged llamas that can dunk a basketball. You're not real. You're not real because every narrative about black people is that being black is hard and horrible, and you can't actually your daughter can't be in ballet because she's too busy. I don't know, tricking on the corner or something, and your son can't be a Rhodes Scholar because he out here thugging it out trying to go make $50 by shooting somebody on the weekend, right? So at the end of the day, I kind of think it's so exciting, like, and I love it. Because the other thing too is the other false narrative is that wealthy black people can't be pro-black. Right? Anybody ever hear that? Like somehow that if you're wealthy or let's say you're conservative or whatever it is, like that you can't be pro-black. You're not pro-black because you're not in the struggle. You're not talking the narrative of the struggle. Your narrative is not the black narrative. Your story is not a black story. Anybody ever hear that? How many of y'all seen that before? Where they think that because you made $1 million last year, somehow your black card gets revoked because now you're actually doing well. You're not suffering the way people think that black people should suffer. I see that all the time, and I think that that's nonsense. Absolute complete nonsense. In fact, in many cases, I have seen more cases than not where a black person that's financially free is actually more pro-black than a person who is financially desperate or economically incarcerated. Right? I've literally seen that. I've seen because think about it. Even if you're pro-black, if you're financially stressed and you got to go serve a white man in order to pay your bills, how pro-black can you actually be for real? For real. Right? You got to be pro-black in secret. You got to be like, hey, if I did work here, I'll be standing right next to you, brother, cause you right what you said about the boss, cause he ain't doing us right. It's like, yeah, but it ain't like what you want to do, it's what you can do. Right? So financial freedom should be a requirement for being black. That's as black as you get. So shout out to all the black people that are doing well, that are paying bills on time, that are building generational wealth. I stand with you. You are pro-black. You are the revolutionary. Stop letting everybody tell you that somehow something's wrong with you because you enunciate your words. Nothing ain't nothing wrong with that. It ain't nothing wrong with you because your daughter's a debutante. That's beautiful. She's protected. She's safe. She gets an opportunity to live a special life. There's nothing wrong with you because your house got 5 bedrooms and 10,000 square feet or whatever it is. Like that's to me, that does not take away your black card at all. In fact, that actually makes your black card bigger and made out of gold if you use it the right way, right? Wealth is power, and wealth mixed with consciousness leads to a powerful existence. Now, I Chanel tells me, first of all, Chanel is sharing the link for the next cohort of Coin, which is our options class. That's the one that's where we do 6 weeks, and I take you through options from A to Z. If you want to join, hit that link that Chanel is sharing. It's discounted, 48% off actually. So feel free to click that link if you want to join the next Coin cohort. We don't let more than 50 people into the class so that you can ask me question after question. And we're almost done with the previous cohort, so we're going to go to the next one. So COIN stands for Certified Options Investing Network. So if you want to learn stock options from A to Z, click the link. Feel free to join. You can bring your whole family. Everything's yours for life. Now, Chanel tells me Tierra is here. Now, I'm going to say this. I see Tiara's name. Tiara, if you listen, I see your name on the screen. I see you're muted, but I don't see your face and I don't hear your voice. So Chanel, I don't know what's up with Tiara. I know Tiara was coming today, but I thought Tiara couldn't make it. But it's okay because Tiara is like she's a friend of the family. She runs Fly Nubian Money, and she's one of us, so she can do whatever she want to do. All right, because y'all know great black women. You can't do nothing you can't do nothing in this world without amazing black women like somewhere in the mix, right? So shout out to the grandmas and the mamas and the aunties and everything. All right, so one thing I want to talk about um, is something that is happening in the economy right now that you should be aware of. And what we're in the middle of is what they refer to as a jobless expansion. There's a jobless expansion. So I was listening to economic data yesterday, and one thing that they said that was really fascinating to me is they said the GDP growth is strong. America is strong. America's making money. America's building wealth. America is chugging along. And if you say, well, I got to leave America because the economy here is not very good, you're going to have to move to another planet, my friend, because ain't nobody else doing better than us as a country. Doesn't mean everybody's doing well, but as a country, the United States is an economic workhorse like no other. Well, here's the thing. What's also been happening simultaneously is companies are not hiring as a function of the economic expansion. There used to be, in the old economy, there was a process where if companies wanted to grow, they had to hire more people, right? And what they're finding is that they're not doing that. They're taking what is called a wait and see mode, where it's, I forgot, there was another term I heard them use, but I can't remember what it was. But it's something where they're not really, but the good thing is they're not really firing people either. They're like, okay, we got this thing called AI, and AI is enhancing our productivity unlike anything we've ever seen. It's just like we can just do stuff really fast, and stuff that used to take 3 weeks can now be done in an hour or two. We used to have to pay a consultant $20,000 to come in and give us a plan. The AI can give you a plan in about 5 minutes, and it is a good plan, right? So it's like, what do you do? Like, how does that work? Like what does that look like? So what they're learning is that you still need people. In fact, I think people can be more valuable than ever if you clearly distinguish between the things a human can do and the things an AI can do. So they're not letting all their people go, but what they're not doing also is they're not hiring lots of new people. And this is especially true for young people. They're not hiring a lot of young people in that 20 something age group that just finished college. The ones that might have previously done redundant, repetitive tasks. It's like, no, why would we do that now? We've got robots to do that now. We don't need a person to do that. So this creates just a new challenge with the economy. Just to reiterate my policy on this, my argument, my belief is that with artificial intelligence, you can't waste time being afraid of it, because being afraid of it is not going to make it go away. It's not gonna make it better. You have to confront it, and confronting it means knowing it and owning it, meaning knowing the tools that are out there, and then also owning the companies that are benefiting from these tools, right? So known, the word, type the word in chat, known. We've known AI, we know it and we own it. Okay. Ultimately, this is economic data that you should be aware of. Tomorrow, if you're watching this live, this is February 11th, 2026. Tomorrow, Wednesday, February 12th, a jobs report is going to come out. That's a big deal because it's going to tell us where we are economically and what that's going to do. The most interesting thing about the jobs report isn't whether or not we're in a recession or something like that. It's really whether or not we could be headed towards economic downturn, which can then impact the actions of the Fed. So what could happen in the jobs report could actually end up confusing you. There could actually be bad news in the jobs report that leads to an increase in stock prices. That literally they could say, oh, the economy is doing worse, and more people are being laid off. And then stock market investors will be cheering because they'll say, oh, yeah, the Fed's going to step in and lower interest rates. Because really, the Fed is just the driver of economic activity, unlike any other, when it comes to the stock market. And that's kind of weird because it kind of speaks to the idea that maybe we have like a controlled economy as opposed to one that's built on all this freedom and all these free market principles that we claim to believe in. It's not free market, man. It's the Fed's in there manipulating everything to make sure rich people stay rich and that investors do well. And that's why I want you to become an investor. And if you haven't started investing, I encourage you to do that for your kids. Really, really important. Get them started early. Get them just let them go out and figure out how to go get a job on their own. You ain't got to teach them all that. They'll learn how to do a resume and a job interview. Start teach them how to invest, teach them how to own things, teach them how to own assets and property, things like that. And then also the best type of income to earn actually is passive income because you don't actually have to work for it. And I talked to a friend of mine yesterday who has a very successful business. He's made a lot of money, and I had dinner with him last night, and we were sitting there, and he was really interested in the stuff that we're doing with options. He said, because I just don't want to work anymore. I don't want to work all the time. So he said, I really want to figure out passive income strategies because I'm in my 50s and I don't want to work this hard for the rest of my life. So passive income is actually the best type of income, and you can get that if you have a capital base or you have a family that works together and things like that. There's a lot of opportunities out there. All right, so one thing I want to do is I want to just mention, I don't know if you guys know, we started our generational wealth simulator that we're running with the stock market students. And the generational wealth simulator is basically something that an idea that I came up with to allow us to understand like the practice of building generational wealth. Like, what does that look like? And here's my theory, very simple. If we have at least one person in a family that's willing to sacrifice for at least a couple of decades, preferably 3 decades, then their family, if they structure things properly, will never have poverty again. They'll never struggle financially again, never even have to work for anybody again, at least not their descendants. So one generation, right, of just not even struggle, not even significant sacrifice, just balance, right? Economic balance, right? The same way you pay bills, you pay your car note on time every month, and you pay your cell phone bill on time every month. You pay your investment bill on time every month, and you don't pay that as the last thing you pay after you're done paying everything else. You pay that as the first thing because there's nothing more important. There's no bill you'll pay that's more important than your financial security, than your economic safety. There's no bill, no light bill, no phone bill, no telephone bill more important than you and your family. So I encourage you to consider putting that bill at the top of the list because what we accomplish is based on priorities. Priorities determine everything. So anyway, we've been doing the generational wealth simulator where what we did was we simulated 30 years of investing by basically saying instead of having you invest a year, we condensed a year to a day. So 30 years is actually 30 days. And each day, which it represents a year, there's randomized economic activity based on about 10 different variables that shape the economy that impacts your portfolio. You pick your stocks. I gave everybody $100,000 in the beginning, and they pick their stocks, and then the next day it tells them how your stocks did, and it explains why. So you get a full report sent to your email that tells you, okay, this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and that's why this went down, and that's why that went up, and then you can make an adjustment every year, just like you would with a regular portfolio. So we're on day 11 right now. We're doing one cohort of this at a time. Right now we're on day 11. And the leader on the leaderboard is Don Butts. I don't know if Don Butts is here, but Don Butts has he's turned his $100,000 into $377,755. Number two on the list is Tyrone Guiden, Guiden. Is that Guiden, Tyrone? Tyrone Guiden, who has $342. Third is Mia James. Mia's so smart. Mia at $299,153. So those are the top three on the leaderboard. And if you want to jump into the simulator, just feel free to join the students in the stock market club. Just go to drboystockmarket.com. That's drboystockmarket.com, and the simulator link should be in there. Chanel, can you check the stock market class to see if the simulator's in there? If so, you can even grab the link and pop it in there if you want to. So yeah, so there we go. So I wanted to mention Mia is doing her thing. So well, everybody, all three, Don and Mia and Tyrone. Tyrone, you better call Tyrone. All right, so all right, so next thing is all right, so here let's do a little field trip to Instagram because I want to talk about some stuff to get you kind of thinking about wealth a little bit. All right. All right. So here, I'm gonna share my screen. Give me a second. Do 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 do. All right. So here is first things first. Okay. So I talked about this briefly, but I like little ideas like this to help us understand the connection between cause and effect. Actions have consequences. Also, the right actions have benefits, and everything is an investment. Everything should be an investment for you. When whether you're talking about relationships, spending time with someone, that's an investment in the relationship. Going to the gym, that's an investment in your health. Of course, putting money in your stock portfolio, that's an investment in your financial security. And what tends to happen is that when people have a deficit in a certain area, I find it fascinating that some people can't make the connection between what they have or don't have right now and what they did or did not do in the future. Or sorry, in the past. Sorry, in the past, right? Like it's like kind of like, well, why would you expect to have a reward when you made no sacrifice? Like, why would you think that you're broke and you're confused by being broke, but why would you think that you wouldn't be broke and never made an investment? Or you're overweight and you're unhealthy, you're at the doctor and taking 10,000 pills in order to survive. Why wouldn't you expect that to happen if you didn't, if you didn't invest in your health, if you never went to the gym, if you always ate the wrong food, right? So that ability to connect is really important. I think it's really important for anybody that wants to be fully empowered in life because I think sometimes the curse of repetitive victimhood is that you lose that connection between cause and effect. We might feel like someone is helping us, an ally, because they empathize with what we're going through. But I've seen so many scenarios where we give children wheelchairs before they even learn to use their legs. So if you put me in a wheelchair before I ever learned to use my legs, then of course I ain't never going to be able to walk. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I knew a kid who went to school and they defined him as being learning disabled very early, like they do a lot of black boys. They try to do that to me, believe it, which is crazy, right? I mean, I'm a professor, dude. I was one of the smartest in my class, but they tried to medicate me and all this other crap. And so what happened was because they identified him as learning disabled, they never taught him how to read because they're like, why would we harm a child that's learning disabled by forcing him to learn how to read? Because he clearly can't read because he's learning disabled. But now but so do you think that he ever learned how to read? No, he never learned how to read. I was, as a kid, I mentored, and I used to hang out with him and stuff. And we would do stuff. He was on the track team when I used to coach track and field back in my hometown of Louisville, and we'd ride in the car, and I would just be like, okay, you see that? What word is that? He'd say hot dog, and then eventually he'd get excited. He'd say chicken and hamburger, and just whatever, right? And maybe I'm hungry because all those words were food, but it was just kind of like, dude, like you're making it worse, right? So I'm not a big fan of people that sit around and feel sorry for black people constantly. I'm not saying that we don't deserve to be heard in terms of our suffering or our struggle, but my God, like if we don't challenge ourselves, then we never grow. So a lot of times, if you get the biggest curse you can ever get is for somebody to label you as a victim and for you to call yourself a victim because then you lose cause and effect. You get sick and you don't realize that the things you could have done to stay healthy, or you talk about life problems at 60, people that struggle at 60. Well, if you want to understand why they struggle at 60, you got to go back to when they were 25 and 30, and you got to say, well, what were they doing at 25 and 30, right? Or if you look at somebody that's asking their kids for money at 70, well, what were you doing with your money when you were 30, 35 years old? What happened to all that money? You made over $1 million, $500,000 in your career. What happened? How what did you invest in? Did you invest in liquor, fried chicken, vacations, new cars? Like where was your money? Where did which money pit did you drop all your cash flow into? Right? So success at any stage later in life really starts when you're young. I think it's very important for young people to get that. Last night I saw Constance Carter, who's a real estate expert, just an amazing lady, and her son was there, and her son is 20 something years old, and he's a great motivational speaker, by the way, and he's going to be part of our Young Black and Rich curriculum at the All Black National Convention, and it's going to be all for the 20 somethings. I want them to lead it. I want them to develop themselves, and I'll just provide a little bit of guidance, but for the most part, I want them to take the lead and show me what they got. And what I love is that and I love the fact that they'll hear me when I say, dude, if you want to be in the driver's seat at 55, you don't start at 54. Like everything I do, my 55th birthday is coming up. Everything I can do at 55 started when I was 20, started when I was 19. I wasn't doing the same stuff everybody else was doing. I wasn't living like a bum, and I didn't fall into the nonsense, that the BS, the propaganda that of what they think black men are supposed to be. I didn't do that crap. And if anybody ever makes you think that everybody's doing that, they a damn lie. They are a damn lie. Smart black men don't live like that. Smart black women don't live like that. People that live like that are following propaganda. There is a script out there. There is a white supremacist racist script that basically wants to keep you in the mud. It wants to keep the black man as a child, keep the black woman as a non-entity, and I just curse it to the root. I curse it to the depths of hell. So anyway, let's keep going. All right, so so thanks to Bowie State, by the way, we did our event. It was called I Respectfully Disagree. Etan Thomas was there. He played for the Washington Wizards. He's a great guy. I don't know. I gotta ask Etan what it was like playing with Michael Jordan because Michael's a tough guy to work with. I think there's another great broadcaster named Lou Holder. He asked a lot of great questions. It was really controversial. It was really great. I enjoyed like sort of being part of a conversation where we could all feel emotionally safe to share our opinions without it turning into like I can't stand you, you a coon, you blah, right? Torrey Smith, he won 2 Super Bowls. I was very embarrassed that I did not know that, but he was a very nice guy as well. So we had this panel. So we're gonna do more of this. We're gonna be in Tulsa next week. So if you live in Tulsa, feel free to pop through. I'll get the information. It's going to be at a church in Tulsa, but I don't know exactly which church. I'm also speaking for the Real Estate Association. I want to say it's called NARAB. I should have that information. Chanel, if you have it, could you put it in the chat, just the name of it or the event or anything you have? And I know it's short notice, but if you don't have it, that's okay. It's NARAB, NAREB, in NARAB, yeah. And I think they're called Realtists. And it's one of the oldest organizations in the country, actually. They're quite good at what they do. So I'm speaking for them in Tulsa. And then since I'm already in Tulsa, and Eton is from Tulsa, we decided to do another one of those panels in Tulsa. So that's going on. So since everybody liked it so much, we'll probably do more of these. And you're welcome to join in any city that we happen to be in. All right. So moving on. So let's I decided to make something to just kind of help us understand and think about generational wealth a little bit. So let me know if you can hear the audio. I'm sharing my audio. So here it goes. Give me a yes if you can hear this audio.
My great granddaddy owned land, but my nephew owns sneakers.
I got that generational drip. Don't own a house, own the moment.
I don't read books on wealth. I just manifest my money.
I took out my 401k early, got the jacuzzi and the 2-seater. Why buy a house when your whip got heated seats? I took out a 10k business loan, put it all in my brand, me.
My great granddaddy.
Okay, so what I want you to think about with this is I want you to think about how bad financial decisions, pretty much a lot of it really comes down to discipline versus emotion, right? If you do everything based on how you feel right then you're pretty much almost always going to make the wrong decision because emotion will lean you towards short-term gratification, and discipline will lead you toward long-term gratification. Now, just understand though, both disciplined people and undisciplined people have feelings and emotions. Both of them want to feel good. Everybody wants to feel good. Nothing wrong with feeling good. The difference between short-term and long-term gratification people is the short-term people want to feel good right now all the time. And so they deplete their opportunities. They'll engage in what is referred to in finance as hyperbolic discounting. You've probably heard me say that term before. Hyperbolic discounting is where you are so focused on the present that you can't even see the future. You are so focused on the present that the future doesn't exist. And all the studies show that people that are stuck in survival mode, people that haven't healed from their trauma maybe, or maybe they're struggling with the effects of that trauma, like addictions or constant soothing mechanisms that you go through, whether it's retail therapy or liquor and drugs or women in order to feel better, right? That can lead to the hyperbolic discounting. The hyperbolic discounting is where I'll give you an example of how hyperbolic discounting can work. Let's say you need $100 right now because you got a bill coming up or you got something you want to buy right now. And somebody says, I can give you $100 now, but if you can wait a year, I'll give you $200. I want you to think about that for a minute. I want you to meditate on it for a second. And I want you to imagine times in your life, because we're all complex people. I want you to imagine times in your life where you would say, no, give me the $100 now. And like, why would you do that? And then I want you to meditate on times where you'd say, no, 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 just keep my money. Give me the 200 in a year. And I want you to process those two feelings. What's going on in your head when you want that? Because everybody, I don't care who you are. I really truly believe everybody's a little bit of both. And tell me if you agree with that. They like all of us are the hundred. Sometimes we're the $100 now people, and sometimes we're the $200 later people, right? The mature voice says, "Oh yeah, put the 100 in my 401k. Yeah, I want the 200 later, by God." And then there's the immature voice who's like, "Man, just give me my money right now." What's going on? What's happening right then? Maybe the decision is made from financial desperation. You got to pay the bill by tomorrow. So, look, I'd like to wait, but I can't. Maybe it's built around something that you just really want. You got something in front of you, like I really want to have that thing, whatever that thing is, right? So this desire that sort of puts you down in almost like in a primal instinct, right? Like I think that's what gets people into trouble with sex, because sex. I studied how sex affects the brain, and it just distorts your reality so badly. That's how people end up getting kicking themselves for their bad decisions, right? And then when you are on a higher consciousness level, though, and you're in a space of emotional peace and safety, you're more capable of saying, it's okay. I can wait. I can wait. Right? Now, so who can wait versus who can't wait? Well, a drug addict can't wait. A drug addict's like, I need my 100 right now because I got to get me some crack. Right? A person who is financially desperate can't wait. They're kind of like they're a little bit like a drug addict, except the difference is they're a drug addict who can't even get their drug. Money becomes the drug because when you have money in your bank account, suddenly you're relaxed, you can breathe better. It's, oh, I got my check. Everything's okay, right? If the money's not there, you go into withdrawal. You start shaking like a crackhead, right? Like start sweating, like, oh gosh, think about that financial anxiety. Well, that's like those are almost like withdrawal symptoms, right? So really, the question then becomes like, how do I shift? Because we can always go back. Like I don't think there's ever a point where you become the $200 person and you're that $200 person forever. But what leads to the shift? Well, a couple things. One is young people have a really hard time doing that. Young people, the part of your brain that actually allows you to see the future is the prefrontal cortex, and 21-year-olds, their prefrontal cortex isn't even developed yet. They're that part of their brain that makes them trade off short-term consequences with long-term effects is not even really there. So young people have a really hard time with they get their butts kicked with hyperbolic discounting. Excuse me. And that's why mentorship is so important. That's why having mentors and people that they respect that will get in their face and say don't do this is so important. Jim Brown used to mentor the gang members in LA who would get so angry and be like, I gotta go kill him. He killed my homie. And you're mad and you're like, you got the gun, and you go out and do it. You're ready to go do it because you're in the moment, and you're not even processing the fact that once you get caught, you're going to have 35 years to reflect on the choice that you made in the moment, right? But you're 17, so it's hard to do that, right? So this is why the black community lost so much when we lost the value of the father, when we started believing that fathers don't matter and that fathers are not important. So you have these young boys without any guidance or mentorship, and they're not able to make good decisions. This has been proven in science. With even elephants, when elephants don't have male mentors, they form gangs. They start to behave like juvenile delinquents because the older men who have the structured thinking are able to provide guidance and mentorship. So when you have a young man that grew up thinking he's the man of the house and all this other stuff, and you 16 talking about I'm the man of the house, nine times out of 10 he's going to be making crazy weird decisions, right? Especially if he's influenced by what he's seeing with hip hop and music. I was reflecting on one of my favorite rappers, T.I., and I remember when now, I'm sure he's evolved since then. He's now got kids and all that. He's probably a grandfather by now. But I remember he had a song, and I remember thinking about the lyrics of the song this morning on the treadmill. And in the song, he was rapping about being drunk and flying down the highway, and if you don't want to die tonight, you best stop messing with me, and saying all this stuff, right? That's like almost like trivially speaking on the idea of killing another person, which will get you life in prison or the death penalty. driving and drunk down the road, which could lead you to kill somebody and get 10, 20 years in prison. And it's just like he's rapping about it as if it's nothing because it just fits in. But of course, because he's a famous rapper, he's not exposed to that the consequences of that lifestyle. He's not, even though he did almost go to prison for some gun charges. But it's just kind of like just of that rampant irresponsibility of hip hop that is such a problem. And I have nothing against Ti. I see he's evolved, and I met him in Ghana. He's a very nice guy. But I still kind of think about that, like, wow, this is so fascinating that we have this culture that will take impressionable young men and expose them to really bad, horrifically destructive ideas from the men that they're supposed to admire. And here's what's interesting too. I had a debate with somebody about hip hop music. I think Torrey Smith, the guy that played for the Ravens, that was on the panel with us yesterday, and we were talking about hip hop. And I said, yeah, I think the music does have an issue, have an effect on our kids, and I think that that's not cool. And I know that he was mentioning, like, I listened to this music and I didn't do this and I didn't do that, and I get that. But here's the thing that's really interesting that I realize is different people process messages in different ways. A white kid listening to hip hop while he's on a college campus is not sitting here thinking like, okay, this guy's saying, I should deal drugs, so I'm gonna deal drugs. This guy's saying I should carry a gun, so I'm gonna carry a gun. He's like, no, this is what those black guys do, right? This is not what we do, right? It's like if you have a minstrel show at the Cotton Club, the white guy watching the minstrel show doesn't look at the guy on stage and say, yeah, I want to be like him. He's saying, wow, that boy can sing, that boy can dance, right? So hip hop, to some extent, actually is a modern day minstrel show. If you know the history of minstrel shows, you know that that's what hip hop really is. A lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it. It's a clown dance, right? You're doing whatever you can to entertain. But then the other piece of that too is, if you talk about black children that hear that music, a black boy living in the suburbs where he's nice and safe and doesn't have to make hard decisions is going to also see the music as entertainment, right? Maybe sometimes he might demote himself and deliberately go seeking out thug life. I mean, I've seen that too, right? But most guys, most of the suburban kids are just going to listen to it. It's not a big deal. But what about that kid who lives in a neighborhood where getting a gun and going to kill somebody is a real easy possibility? Like, what if you live in some parts of the west side of Chicago, where I talk to guys where they tell me that somehow, some way, boxes of guns will just appear in the alley that out of nowhere, and no one knows where the guns came from, but you're 12 and suddenly you have access to an AK-47. You're 14 and you can actually go if you really want to sell crack and make money. You really can. It's easy. I know JoJo is selling crack. I don't know if I went to a city and somebody said, "Hey boys, go get me some crack." I'd be like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where to begin. I'd have to form a whole new network of friends. But if you grow up in a space where this kind of thing is common, where the guns and the drugs are kind of everywhere, well, it's a lot easier to manifest whatever whatever destructive imagery has been placed into your head by your favorite rapper. So when Ti raps about killing, that was no longer his reality because he's world famous. But a kid in the street, like, yeah, killing is real. It happens all the time. And you live, and in Chicago, if you go to Chicago, you'll see that they have drill rappers. If anybody know drill rap? If you don't know it, let me explain. It's easy to understand, but it's terrible. But drill rap is basically where guys will rap about who they murdered. And then they will rap about who they're going to kill. And then the other rappers that want to kill them will rap about how they were going to come kill you, right? Which is just it just discuss it just kind of reflects on the insanity of what they've kind of tried to do to us. And it's unfortunate because that is a black wealth killer, because there's no greater source of wealth in the black community than the children in that community. That is your future. These kids are your future. The youth. I mean, they're the lifeblood that's going to drive forward any agenda that you and I have. And so really, when you talk about, when someone says, well, does hip hop music impact the thinking of kids? I'm like, well, if you remember when Bill Cosby put A Different World on TV, does anybody remember that? And what happened when Bill Cosby put A Different World on TV? What happened? What happened? When Bill Cosby put A Different World on NBC, HBCU applications shot through the roof. Millions of young black kids who didn't even know what a HBCU was were suddenly clamoring to get into an HBCU. So to say that hip hop has no effect on children is like saying advertising does not work. Advertising works. advertising. If advertising didn't work, they wouldn't spend tens of billions of dollars on it every year. How you hell you gonna tell me advertising a message doesn't work? You're okay, boys. We're gonna breathe because you know what I want to do. I want to say you're stupid if you think that it doesn't work. It works. It works. But it doesn't work on everybody. It doesn't have the same effect on everybody. So if you say, "Well, I listen to music, I listen to this song, murder, 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 kill, 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 and I hate all women," and go, you know what? Like I listen to the song and I just like the beat and it doesn't affect me. I get that. That's like me and you watching the McDonald's commercial. You go to McDonald's and I don't. I can watch a McDonald's commercial and not go to McDonald's, but McDonald's knows this. They know that everybody who hears the McDonald's commercial isn't da 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 da. I'm loving it. They're not all gonna go to McDonald's. They're just looking for the ones that will. So if you act like the advertisement doesn't have an effect, then you are speaking you are speaking in contradiction to hundreds of years of evidence in the opposite direction. Marketing matters. What messages are being marketed to our children? That's what has to happen because if those messages are good, then they do good things. If those messages are destructive, then some of them will do destructive things. Don't come tell me just because it didn't affect you, then it ain't gonna affect nobody. That's a very limited perspective. So the message to market to your children is one of wealth and power and investing and economic security and economic intelligence. You market that message consistently, somebody's gonna get it. Some of y'all are going through it. Some of y'all are going to your family members saying, generational wealth, we gotta invest, we gotta buy stock. And some of your relatives are like, whatever, man. And then you're thinking, man, I should probably just stop talking about it because ain't nobody listening. No, you keep talking about it. You talk about it till you are black and blue in the face because somebody's gonna get it. Somebody's gonna listen. They just might not be ready. They might not have the vision, the ability to even see the vision. Different people have different attention spans and different levels of intelligence, different levels of ability to see the future. So if you're repeating the message and you talk to 5 kids and 4 of them say, "I'm not interested in any of this," one of them might listen. Constance Carter, who I saw yesterday, she told me that when she signed all of her kids up for the Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program, and she said, "I went to all 3 of my kids and I said, if you do this, if you go through this curriculum, I'll give you $1,000 to invest." And 2 of her kids said no, but then one of them said okay. And he took the 1,000, he turned it into 8,000, and then he took the 8,000 and turned it into almost 100,000. And this kid had almost, if I'm not mistaken, I think she said he had $100,000 while he was a teenager, right? So let's not make blanket assumptions that are just fundamentally incorrect that defy what's been proven through tons of research and evidence. It's crazy, right? So anyway, with that being said, yeah, let me just, if you guys, I forgot to mention this too. If you wanna get the recording of the silver deep dive that we did yesterday, there's the link if you want to either get the recording, but also like I said, I'm gonna redo it again because I wrote an email that was absolutely terrible. I got the date wrong. And a lot of you were there, but some of you may have missed because of that. So I'm just going to do it again, just because it's fun to do anyway. And so we're going to do this live. All right. So so let's see here. Before we finish up, let's go back to Instagram again and let's see what other interesting things are happening in terms of Instagram. Okay. So one thing I wanted to oh yeah, this is good. Okay. So this kind of this video kind of speaks to how irrational panics can cause stock markets to give you opportunities to make money. They can cause crashes based on absolute nonsense. And consciousness, one aspect of consciousness isn't just the ability to see the future. It isn't just the ability to woosah your way through a market decline and see the bigger picture. It's also based on the ability to know the difference between nonsense and dollars and cents, right? It's the ability to kind of know when something is serious and something is not. So that's kind of a blend between financial literacy and mindfulness. So let me just play this. This is an example of when there was a market panic over a chicken shortage and it wasn't even real. So I'm going to play this video. Let me know if you can hear the audio. If you can't hear it, I can start it again, but and I might play it twice. But here it is. I'm gonna play it now. It's on my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance.
It started with something no one feared: a chicken. In the 1970s, whispers spread across trading floors. There weren't enough chickens to go around. Restaurants panicked, suppliers froze, and Wall Street smelled blood. A handful of traders made a quiet decision. They bought up frozen chickens by the ton, warehouses filled, freezers locked. The market didn't know it was being strangled. Prices spiked overnight. Futures exploded. Screens flickered red as fear spread faster than facts. Traders weren't buying food anymore, they were buying panic. Then the truth leaked. The shortage wasn't real. It was manufactured by greed, hiding in cold storage. Confidence collapsed. Prices crashed. Fortunes evaporated over poultry contracts no one wanted anymore, all because a few men believed they could corner reality itself. The lesson was brutal. Markets don't run on logic. They run on belief. And sometimes a belief is easier to manipulate than money. It started with some.
Okay, so if you want to hear me profess just some of what I would argue are these conspiracy theories about the market being manipulated, the answer is absolutely yes. The market does get manipulated. Lots of markets get manipulated. They got these prediction markets now. It's really betting, it's really gambling, but they call them prediction markets for legal reasons. And those markets get manipulated all the time. It's kind of like, ooh, it like almost in such a blatant way that at some point there's going to be regulation. There has to be. And so ultimately, market manipulation leans on the idea that the stock market is pretty smart and very precise about what it thinks it knows. The mathematics behind stock market valuations is super careful about taking what it thinks it knows and putting that in the formula and giving you accurate prices based on what it thinks it knows. But the problem is that sometimes it's just not true. Right. And sometimes there are, and given that prices are manipulated by supply and demand, might see scenarios where someone will manipulate supply or manipulate demand in order to move a price. The Federal Reserve even does this. If they see that bond prices are not moving in the right direction, they'll go and create artificial demand and go buy bonds, right? And that ends up increasing the money supply. Or maybe in this case, with the case of chickens, it turned out that there was sort of a manipulation of the market by people just taking chickens off the market, or at least sending a rumor that they were taking chickens off the market. The Chinese have done this, I think, with, I don't know if it was silver, I believe it was silver, and they just said, we're going to just stockpile our silver. We're not selling it. We're not putting it out there. So that was one of the things, one of the catalysts, I believe, that actually moved the price of silver quite a lot. So ultimately, this market manipulation does happen, and it can cause these price shocks. And so, consistent research on the market and sort of following what's happening and educating yourself on what's going on can help you sort of decide based on your thesis and in terms of what you own and why, whether or not you should react to something or not react to it. And the other thing too is the market panics all the time. The market is highly emotional, and if you are able to regulate your emotions and sort of keep your head cool, then you're able to make money. Like so anytime I see everything dipping and everything dropping, I'm super excited because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so great. I can buy a whole bunch of stuff really cheap. But sometimes you have to still think it through though, because like right now, Bitcoin is super cheap. But Bitcoin has changed. The thesis on Bitcoin has evolved, and we never really knew what Bitcoin was. In fact, if you'd asked me about Bitcoin years ago, and I said this 6 years ago, I said Bitcoin is a young asset. Nobody knows exactly what Bitcoin really is and what it's going to look like 20 years from now, or if it's even going to be here 20 years from now. So the definition of what it can provide to the economy has evolved. However, there are still ways you can participate. And if you understand the stock market and the options market, for example, you're able to participate in a way where you can minimize your risk and protect yourself, right? So even if Elaine is right, Elaine wrote scam, right? So maybe I don't know if Elaine, if you believe Bitcoin is a scam, Steph says Bitcoin's real, or he says it's real. I assume you're talking about Bitcoin, maybe something else, but it's okay. Whatever you believe, it's kind of a tricky thing, right? But at the very least, you should expect the unexpected, sort of prepare not just for the known and the unknown, but for the unknown unknowns. Like you invest sort of preparing for the idea that a lot of the things that we believe to be true in 2026 are going to be proven false in 2027. You just don't know what that is. And the narratives that shape investing right now are going to be different from what shapes investing a year from now. And that's just kind of how it works, right? So keeping your head calm and steady, I think, is a really important approach to all of this. All right, so let's finish up for today. For those of you that are that do stock options income, I put together the moneymaker grid. I sent that text out. If you're interested in options with us, you can also text the word options to the number 87948, and I can send you invitations to join us in Prime. The URL is drboyceprime.com. So feel free to take a look at that. Also, as an FYI, thanks to Karen and Kendall Green, they recommended that I set up a Substack. So I actually, if you look up Dr. Boyce Watkins on Substack, I do have a Substack now. So feel free to go check out the Substack. I see a lot of people doing it, so I thought I'd try it out. So anyway, hope you guys have a wonderful day. God bless you, and thank you so much for listening and hanging out. And the Moneymaker Grid, Catherine, yeah, the Moneymaker Grid. That's basically what we do when I pick out companies where you can buy the stock and sell the options, and they generate the most income. So that's what the Moneymaker Grid is. So if you text the word options, send that to the number 87948, and it's options with an S to 87948. Then you'll be on the list and you'll get a notification when we meet for class again. We're going to meet for Prime class next week. All right. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you. Thank you, Chanel. For everything. And Chanel, I don't know if you want to put that link to Coin one more time in the chat. If anybody wants to join the next cohort, feel free to talk to Chanel. All right. So have a good day, everybody. I'll see you soon.